The whole point of a Build a Nation save is to take not only your club, but your country to heights they have never seen before. Is it possible to do that while also taking a step backwards? That, my friends, is a question we're going to answer here as Season 4 kicks off in Red Rain. Welcome back, my friends, to season number 4 as we attempt to build up not only Kefalonia, but the nation of Albania. We did a pretty good job last year making the league phase of the Europa League. Could we do better this year? That was the question. We did make a number of changes to the squad in order to make that happen. First off, we got a little younger while also getting a tad more experienced. We did say goodbye to Damiano Gini. He was our captain for a while, but we were realizing that we are starting to be able to find players that were willing to join us, that were going to be able to eclipse some of the guys on the squad, and Gini was one of them. While he was definitely a consistent performer for us, we just needed to make some space on our roster, and the 31-year-old was one of those casualties. We also let go of longtime backup Christy Kari. Now, he did play a major role in the team in season number 1 because we really didn't have a ton of good options in goal. But once we started bringing in new goalkeepers like Gabriel Brazao and Mario Dacignani, and to a certain extent Alberto Savini in season 1 and 2, Kari was finding himself third and fourth choice on the depth chart, so we allowed the 25-year-old to leave on a free transfer. We also realized we were allowing our youth sides to get a little bloated with guys who frankly were never going to play for us. Matteo Mariani was one of them, the 19-year-old allowed to go out on a free. Now, he is wanted by a couple of teams, so that is good for him. Great finishing, good fitness, but lacking the strength and pace, passing ability, vision that we like to see in a striker, so he was expendable. As was 20-year-old striker Gerald Kubazi. Now, we do use 3 strikers in our system, but we had a number in our youth teams that just were never going to find a place and break in. He was probably 9th, 10th on our overall depth chart for years to come, and we just never saw him developing to the point where he would be good enough to make the squad. We did also say goodbye to our left-back 28-year-old Brazilian Andre Iago. He scored a goal and picked up 14 assists for us last year. He played well, but as he was getting older and we had Ibrahimi and we brought in other reinforcements, we just knew that if we were going to get anything for Iago, now would be the time. He's making $2,700 a week at Scandizia, more than we would be willing to pay him if we kept him on, so we let him go. We did the same with a backup right back in the form of Gerald Schmeili, 24 years old, didn't make a ton of appearances for the club. Again, too deep on the depth chart. We didn't see him getting much better than we needed him to be. His dribbling ability and passing ability were kind of letting him down. Not a ton of technique. His concentration, lack of aggression made this decision easy. He is now playing for KF Ignazia. And while we were letting strikers go, well, we were still adding to our stable, signing 22-year-old Albanian U19 international Enes Tojai, and kind of like this kid. Now, he may not have the finishing of some of the players that we have highlighted before, but his physical abilities are great, although his jumping reach, not necessarily the best. Only 5'10", but he does know what to do with the ball when he heads it. Decent off the ball, and his mental attributes, the ones that are important to us, maybe his decision-making, concentration, a little on the lower side, but once again, he is a very consistent player. He's got a bit of a ceiling, not necessarily as high as we would like to see, but filling that target forward role, which is very important to us. We thought that Tojai was going to be a nice addition to the squad. And while we said goodbye to a 24-year-old right back, we said hello to an 18-year-old U21 Croatian international, Antonio Tomic. He definitely fills that role a little bit better than what we were looking for. Yes, his dribbling isn't fantastic, but he makes up for it with his crossing. Great decision-making. His positioning is pretty good. Marking and tackling, very good. He's got some speed to him. Great stamina, so he can see out a full match. Needs to be a little bit more consistent, but the resolute personality we hope is going to make up for the rest. Now, while we don't typically play with wingers, sometimes we do go back to that 4-2-4 in certain game situations. And we could not pass up an absolute steal of an opportunity. He cost us 66 €25,000. He's 18 years old, from Guinea. He's Ousmane Lama. Now, he's a natural left wing, but he can play the striker position, so we basically have been playing him primarily as a striker on that left-hand side this season. He's got a ton of potential, but he's also got a ton of current ability. Fantastic first touch, great fitness. He's got a decent amount of pace. That acceleration is absolutely perfect for the way that we play football, and he can pass the ball as well. His decision-making is also well above average for the league. Very glad to have this young man as a part of the squad. Dipping back into mimosas, we brought in 27-year-old Ivorian Lamine Fofana. He is a midfielder, primarily of the ball-winning variety. His positioning, teamwork, work rate are all pretty good. Good tackling and marking. Really everything that we need in a player in the midfield, he has an attribute in the green. We'd love to see it. We're paying him quite a bit, $3,600 a week, but he absolutely is worth it. A nice, fairly determined personality, and yes, my friends, he is a consistent performer. He's got a ton of stamina, decent natural fitness as well. We play a lot of matches between the league, the cups, and Europe, so Lamine Fofana, a very welcome addition to our side. And in a deal that might cap out at €225,000, we brought another youngster in for our backline, 18-year-old U19 Croatian international Lovro Šarić. Not sure how much playing time he's actually going to get this season, but we're hoping to develop him for the future. Good jumping reach. He's 6'1". Got to work on the heading just a little bit, marking just a little bit. His tackling, though, is fantastic, and that 17 bravery we just could not say no to. Like I said, a ton of potential, an exciting young prospect who isn't far from the first team level, and we hope that he'll be a member of the Velocnia family for years to come. Still haven't fixed the glitch that has been precluding us from showing you highlights. Hopefully season 5, maybe, we will get that all ironed out. If somebody knows the best way to play a full season and still be able to show the highlights a little bit later on, yes, I make save points, but still, yeah, that ain't working. We kicked off the season, unfortunately, by dropping our first points of the season, taking on Dinamo City on the road. It was a 2-2 tie. They did take a 1-0 lead in the 62nd minute off of a Luca Moro goal, but Ildi Gruda tied things up. Luca Tosi put us ahead, but in the last moments of regular time in the second half, Armand Rada tied things up. 2-2 your final, even though we absolutely dominated this match 6 ways from Sunday. We did make 2 additional moves from players who were part of the squad. Fairly significantly last year, Florij Bahia has gone to Flumentari. We allowed him to leave the club. And then we were forced to make a move that I absolutely did not want to. Another promising youngster, much like Bruno Gomes and Season 1, is out the door to much greener pastures. Klaji Ibrahimi got an offer from Southampton that we just could not refuse, frankly, because the player wouldn't allow it. €1 million in our coffers, less one 19-year-old Albanian right back. Things, frankly, were up and down in the beginning of this season because we bounced back with a 4-1 win on the road against KS Bessa. We only held them to a single shot on target while we managed 30 shots in this match. 13 of them within the frame of the goal. A brace for Luka Tosi, Mihailo Spazojevic scoring again, and Georgi Petrovic at the end of the match, putting the icing on the cake. Which we somehow followed up with a 3-0 drubbing on the road to KF Tirana. We managed 19 shots. We got 5 of them on target. They got 4 on target and scored 3. But then we somehow managed to bounce back against Flamutari, who, if you remember, was challenging us for a good portion of last year for the Albanian Championship. Yeah, we took care of them at their place quite handily by a 7-1 score, which we were then able to parlay into our first 2-match winning streak of the season, beating Bilis at home 2-0 again. Which we were then able to parlay into our first 2-match winning streak of the season, beating Bilis at home 2-0 behind goals from Georgi Petrovic and Luka Tosi. Which 5 matches in put us in second place, making the 4th consecutive season that we have not gotten off to a running start, but we all know how the last 3 turned out. And we were doing so well through October until the worst that could happen to us could potentially happen. After 7 starts, conceding 7 goals and keeping 3 clean sheets in the league, Filip Samurovic went down with an injury. I do love how in Football Manager 24, it is so easy for a goalkeeper to make a save and break their hand, but for weeks, we are going to be without our number one between the sticks. And the worst part is it came in the midst of a 0-0 draw against Partizani at home. We just could not break through. Only a single shot on target for either side in this match. It was for us, and we just could not get it past Panayot Kirko. But we played very well with Gabriel Bizao in goal, beating Terbuni at home 4-1, demolishing KS Besa 5-1 at home. So even without our regular goalie, we found ourselves at the top of the table, tied on points with KF Bilis, with a plus 11 goal difference advantage over them heading into the meat of our season, which is where we really turned it on. Heading into New Year's Eve, we lost just one time in the ensuing run of 9 fixtures. It was a 1-0 loss at home, surprisingly, against AF Elbasani, a team that every once in a while finds that nut, that blind squirrel we know them to be. I apologize if that last turn of phrase made absolutely no sense. That one got a little bit away from me. So midway through the year, 18 games in, 13 wins, 3 draws, just the 2 losses, 42 points. We have expanded our lead on second place. It's Elbasani now. Bilis has dropped down to third, but we are up by 10 points midway through. We would make a few more moves in the winter transfer window, sending 19-year-old Albanian striker Paolo Manella, who was just struggling to get playing time on the side. We sent him out on loan to second place, Elbasani. And we did part ways with one of our fan favorites, 27-year-old Albanian striker Ildi Gruda. He managed just 4 goals and 4 assists in 17 appearances and was finding himself riding the pine more than actually being out on the pitch in later matches. So when we got a bid for 100,000 euros for him, we took it. And one of the reasons we felt confident in doing that is because we found a fantastic 19-year-old Italian U20 international specimen in the form of Mattia Mosconi. Now, at this point in the season, has yet to make an appearance for the club. We literally just brought him in here at the end of January. His holy trinity of dribbling, finishing, and first touch are fantastic. He's got good pace. He's 6 foot. He's got acceleration. He's got good composure. His heading ability could use a little bit of work, and he is very one-footed as a lefty, but we are very happy to bring in a player who already at the age of 19 rates as a star in the league, and he could still improve quite a bit. He's got a fairly professional personality. I love that. And once again, like most of the players we bring in, super consistent on the pitch. But up front was not just where we were looking to strengthen. We brought in 23-year-old Serbian Marko Širčić to help man the midfield. Again, very good with the defensive aspects of the position. Marking, tackling, pretty good. Positioning, okay. Decent amount of work rate. He's pretty above average across the board, especially for this level. We're paying him quite a bit, $3,300 a week. But again, he's rated as a star player in this league who does have room to grow. Now at 23, how much is he going to do that? Hopefully he's going to make a huge impact on the team throughout the remainder of the season. And we also brought in additional cover on the back line. Another 23-year-old Serbian, capped a couple of times at the U21 level, Nemanja Djekovic. Oh my God, can this guy get in the air? And he knows what to do with it when it hits his head. Marking ability is also very good. He is a leader on and off the pitch, and his mental abilities are fantastic for this level. Yet another consistent player. I love to see that. He's also got strength, and he stands at 6'3". Really, what more do you want in a center back? By the time our youth intake came along, we found ourselves with very few hiccups in league play, although Elbasani still holding in strong, maintaining a 9-point deficit behind us. We are now running away from both Dinamo City and Bilis in 3rd and 4th. By the second week of March, we have already qualified for that top 4 spot, which means we are definitely, no matter what happens from here on out, going back to Europe. And by all accounts, according to our head of youth development and our scouting team, we had a pretty good youth intake. Leading the way is Emiliano Tahiri, another striker slash potential winger, but he's natural up the middle. Could use a little bit of work on his finishing and his mental attributes, especially where it comes to anticipation and concentration, not exactly where I would like them to be. With a realist personality, I guess that's kind of okay. He does need to work on his consistency. He's only 5'8", which is slightly problematic, but this could be one of those players that we develop for a little while and sell on to one of our competitors. They're not really our competitors. They're really our compatriots when it comes to European football. I think for now and in the future, we're pretty much going to end up running away with the league. At least I hope so. We've done so for the first 3 years, and it's looking like season number 4 is going to be much of the same. But the more players we can get in that we could then farm out to other Albanian clubs, I think the better we're all going to be once we start climbing that coefficient table. But more on that when we get to Europe in just a couple of minutes. A couple other players that looked really good to us, at least potentially could be in the future. 15-year-old Ishmael Krasnicki. He is a right back. Naturally could kind of play on the left side. He's got a decent left foot, but he's really hasn't been trained over there just yet. Good crossing ability, decent tackling for a kid his age, only 5'7". Makes me wonder about that back post a little bit. Sadly, he does have an unambitious personality. Let's hope that maybe we can beat that out of him. I do feel that with FM24, it seems like the more potential a player has, the worse their personality is. It's like they need to balance out the good with the bad. Now, we do have another elite talent in 16-year-old Ali Mamushi, another striker with a tremendous amount of finishing, needs work on the first touch. Heading, jumping reach aren't great, even though he stands at 5'11". We have probably decided we are going to sign him and send him out. He does have a nice, fairly professional personality. However, does need to work on that consistency. But honestly, at 16 years old, who doesn't? And there's really no sense beating around the bush anymore. You know we made the playoffs. We ended up as the number 1 seed. So the question is, how did the playoffs go? Well, KF Bielis held off second place Elbasani by a score of 2-1 in their semifinal to make it through. Even though Luka Klajic missed the penalty, they still were able to come out victorious. Meanwhile, we took on Dinamo City, and well, we did what we did. 2-0 at home. We led 1-0 at the half. Enes Tojai getting an early goal 8 minutes in. Seems to be the way. We do score early often, and then we either tail off sometimes or we get just enough to get it done. In this case, it was the latter. Mattia Mosconi adding a goal in the 3rd minute of second half stoppage time to really nail things down. Now, Luka Tosi did get sent off in the 73rd minute, which meant he was going to miss the final. Luckily for us, we didn't actually need him. All we needed was an 85th minute goal from Enes Tojai to put us up 1-0 over KF Bielis. We would hang on at the end. Semirovic in goal for us, picking up the clean sheet as we recorded our 4th consecutive Albanian championship. As far as the extraneous Albanian competitions were concerned, we completed the double by winning the Superkupa against Flamutari. We pretty much dominated this one from start to finish. Well, maybe not the start, as Kleji Daci did get Flamutari on the board first. But then once Vanja Pelško scored, Luka Nenadovic added a brace of his own within the first half hour. We did get lucky that we picked up an own goal in the 77th minute to put the final nail in the coffin, but a 4-1 victory secured another piece of hardware for Vlatsnia. Things got a little hairier for us in the 3rd round. Now, Enes Ismaili did manage a goal in the 1st minute to put us ahead, but then Robin Hoti tied things up just a couple of minutes later. Luka Nenadovic missed the penalty 5 minutes in. I thought, oh my God, here we go. But then a brace from Kostas Koumitsidis and a 56th minute goal from Vanja Pelško gave us the 4-3 victory as we moved on to round number 4. You may be wondering why you've never heard Kostas Koumitsidis' name before, and that's because, well, he's 16 years old. We brought him up for the cup competition because, well, if we didn't win the match against the team that was vastly inferior to us on paper, then shame on us. But we were rotating our squad and making sure we rested up our guys for the matches that to us really counted. It was, however, from that point that things got easier for us. In the quarterfinal, we matched up and took care of Flemetari by a score of 3-1. Yes, your eyes were not deceiving you. We did rail off 30 shots in that match. We only managed 25 to Dinamo City's 5, but in the end, an easy 5-2 victory behind a penalty conversion from Branimir Shavar, a brace from Usmani Lama, Luka Tosi getting in on the action, and Mihailo Spazojevic scoring again. He did that a lot this year. 29 goals for him in 56 appearances for KF Volotsnia over a 2-year period. And then we took on Partizani in the final. Tojai getting it in the box, squaring it past Spazojevic. Lama picking it up far post past Kirko to make it 1-0. From the penalty spot, Gonçari would tie things up in the 23rd minute, but we would break through with the game winner. Branimir Shavar into the box, Lama into the middle, wide open net for Pelshko, and we once again lifted the Albanian Cup, winning the competition for the second year in a row. And so you may be thinking, you just won the domestic treble, you must be absolutely flying high. And we absolutely were. But remember, I teased you earlier on that we took steps forward only to take steps back. Well, that, my friends, that happened in Europe. Once again, we found ourselves in the first qualifying round of the Champions League, and once again, taking on a team from Iceland. This time, we could not manage victory on the road, even though we rattled off 22 shots to their 8. Luka Tosi got the scoring rolling in the 57th minute, but then goals in the final 20 minutes of the match by Gunnar Mikkelsen and Hojer Højgaard, well, they did us in on the road 2-1 against Key. But we were able to bounce back in the home leg, winning 4-0, 5-2 on aggregate, a brace from Luka Broderic. Ildi Gruda getting a goal. This is obviously before we dealt him mid-season. And Luka Tosi scoring in the 92nd minute to make things very easy for us at home behind 26 shots and a very solid clean sheet performance by Filip Samarovic. But that, my friends, is just where our troubles were truly beginning. Because when we took on Rakow in the second qualifying round, yes, we did not win in the second leg away from home. We lost 2-0, actually. A 5-1 victory in the home leg, well, that gave us a 5-3 aggregate lead, and for the second straight year, we were on to the third qualifying round of the Champions League, which would pit us against Champions League perennials Dinamo Zagreb. And at home, we absolutely took care of business. A brace from Branimir Shavar, Georgi Petrovic, and Usmani Lama, each getting goals in a 4-1 emphatic victory. We're a 1-1 draw on the road, with Dinamo scoring their only shot on target of the match, would give us a 5-2 aggregate victory and put us in the Champions League qualifying playoff round, which meant that we were a mere 2 matches away from making our first Champions League phase ever for KF Volotsnia. And on the back of a Mihailo Spazojevic hat trick, well, that looked like it was destined to happen, taking the first leg of the tie 5-1 at home against Azerbaijani side Karabaj. And even though we tried our level best to piss it away on the road, a 4-4 draw gave us a 9-5 aggregate victory, and we were on to the league phase of the Champions League, which meant that we were probably the lowest seeded team in the competition, and our schedule showed it. Kicking off the league phase on the road against Lazio before a trip to Scotland to take on Rangers. Then our first home match of the competition against none other than Bayern Munich, an away match at the Camp Nou against Barcelona. The one match I think we might have a chance of winning at home against Crvena Zvezda, then home against Chelsea, on the road at FC Porto, before finishing off the competition at Atletico de Madrid. And let's just say winning the match against Karabaj was a massive mistake, as we finished up the Champions League phase, getting eliminated with 2 matches left to go, in 35th place on just a single point. We did outperform Panathinaikos, but we lost 7 of our 8 matches, just managing a draw in the final match week, 0-0 against Atleti. And I do apologize, I just couldn't bring myself to bring you the individual results. It still hurts my heart. And I gotta tell you, what didn't really help was the performance of the other Albanian sides in Europe this year. We were originally heartened by Dinamo City in the first qualifying round of the Europa Conference League path because they managed to knock off La Fiorita 10-0 at home before finishing off the job with an emphatic 5-0 victory on the road to beat them 15-0 on aggregate, which sadly means they blew all of their goals from the competition in the first round because they could not muster a single tally against Slovan Bratislava, losing both matches by a score of 1-0 and exiting after the second qualifying round. Flamutari, meanwhile, saw themselves rematched against Alashkert and taking care of business with an Edmund Safari goal 4 minutes in to beat them 1-0 at home, before being unable to repeat the feat from last year, dropping a 2-0 decision in the second leg. Speaking of teams we've seen in European competition before, Bilis kicked off the first qualifying round against Dudelange of Luxembourg. They managed a 3-1 victory on the road, and a very solid, if unspectacular, 1-0 win at home for a 4-1 aggregate victory and move on to the second qualifying round, which has further proved that Albanian sides do not yet have the staying power required for European competitions, as in the second qualifying round, KF Bilis managed to lose 1-0 at home to Damjali before going on the road, winning 3-2 on the night, but falling 5-4 on pens to be knocked out of the competition once again. So as far as the overall picture in Europe is concerned, it was still a pretty good year. We managed 4 points, which was just 1/8 of a point down from the year before. I do feel that if we were in the Europa League instead of the Champions League phase, we might have been able to up that ante a little bit. Now, the good news is next year we have a 0.875 year dropping off. So we end the year on 14.125 points, which should mean that we jump 2 spaces into 35th to kick off season number 5. The problem is the Republic of North Macedonia, who seem to be our biggest rival in this save, not only leapfrogged us last year and started the year at 34th, I believe they are going to make it as far as 29th to start next year. North Macedonia with a pair of massive seasons, and well, this is partly buoyed by the fact that they lost a very poor 0.625 year heading into next season. And it has been confirmed we will start next year in 35th place, which means that we don't have 3 teams starting in the first qualifying round of the Europa Conference League. We are only going to have 2 because our second place team is now going to begin in the second qualifying round. So 1 less round to get through. Maybe next year we will see a team actually make the Europa Conference League phase that isn't Vlatsnia. And I don't normally touch on this at the end of the video, but I'm going to this time. Next year, well, we're going to have a lot of money at our disposal. 175,000 euros per week and a transfer budget of over 16.5 million. The question is, are we going to be able to find players that we can spend that money on that are actually going to improve our squad? And just to give you an idea, last year our wage bill was under 37 euros per week. We've got a massive amount of money to spend. The question is, are we going to spend it in Season 5? Do we want to make the Champions League phase again? Or do we want to settle for a couple of years in the Europa, if not the Europa Conference League, just to get wins and coefficient points? These are all questions we are going to ask when we return next time for season number 5 of our Building a Nation save in Albania. The red rain has begun, took a little bit of a stumble this year, although we are still moving up the chart, so 2 steps forward, a step and a half back, if you will. If you've been enjoying the series so far, make sure you hit a like on this video so more people can see it. The algorithm will take it out in front of all of your friends so they can enjoy it just as much as you have. Also, subscribe to the channel, please, if you have not already. We're trying to get to 300 subscribers. We are getting closer and closer each and every day, and I have all of you to thank for that. Come back next time and see how we did in Season 5, because I am looking forward to bringing it to you. Until we meet again, my friends, bye-bye.